Being in a marriage that does not have affection, intimacy, eroticism, sex, and playfulness is one of the most difficult situations imaginable. You got married hoping for love. You got married to someone that you trusted, to someone who you thought was going to care about you, all aspects of you, for the rest of your life, and who would invite you to do the same in return. You got married with a heart full of romance and love, joy and spontaneity. You were so very ready for a life spent together, not just spending your actual time together, but being together in emotional and intellectual and spiritual and physical ways. And you started off with such an overwhelming sense of awe at the beauty and loveliness and wonder of what you had begun together. You thought you had found a best friend. You thought you had found someone to walk beside you, and certainly a lover. You knew that some of the best and most beautiful things in life were possible right there in your home, in your marriage, in your friendship. And you wanted more than anything in the whole world to simply delight in this precious gift, this darling, this sweetheart, this lovely person with whom you had built so much trust and had invested so much time and energy. And it has instead been a very sad, lonely, neglected, and even abusive path. You knew when you got married that all marriages take work, and you were glad to do that. Hard work. To do whatever it took to make sure you were becoming more sensitive, more caring, more in tune with your partner's needs and desires and interests. And you are more willing than ever to figure out ways in which your habits and tendencies might in any way inhibit the thriving of the relationship. And you're willing to do the hard work on your own and through reading books about how to have a good marriage and listening to speakers with great insights. You've been willing to do whatever it would take to make this a truly beautiful part of your life. And you knew the aching of waiting for a best friend, the ache of waiting to touch and be touched, the ache of waiting for a dance partner in life, the ache of feeling unloved and even undesired. And when it finally happened that you found this person who seemed so very special at the time, who seemed like such a dream come true, someone with whom you could build a truly happy home and develop a mature, loving, solid relationship that would last for decades. As you met this person to begin life together, you were so hopeful. And then slowly, but surely, reality hit. The reality hit that you are not in a marriage where you are cared for, and you are instead in a marriage where you are alone. You will be sleeping alone. You'll be walking in the park and your partner will not take your hand. And the emptiness will hit you wave after wave after wave. You look in the mirror sometimes at night all by yourself and you think to yourself, how in the world is this happening to me? I invested so much energy and effort to make sure that I was truly a loving, caring, kind, inviting person, and that I picked someone truly excellent. I have bent over backwards to be as loving and caring as I can. And I thought I picked someone who was the same. And yet, as you look in the mirror and see yourself, you see the emptiness in your eyes. And you feel it in your heart as you know that this person with whom you were attached does not truly care about you on some of the most basic and profound levels. And it simply breaks your heart. It breaks your heart because it is so painful and because it is so very needless. The smallest of efforts would make such a big difference. A little touch on the shoulder, a little stroke across your hand, a little laugh and a smile, a hug here or there, not even sexual touching, just touching, just building it up with small ways of showing affection throughout the day, showing that you are inviting each other and moving toward each other as much as possible. And it is breaking your heart because it's a denial not just of your basic humanity, but it's a denial of you as a specific person. This is how you show affection, by reaching out to the person in so many ways, trying to connect, speaking loving words to them, doing things for them, touching them, spending time together, caring about their physical body, and wanting to both invite their affection and extend it to them as well, to truly come together as one. But when you look at the track record and the history of what has been going on, you see a slow but definite progression in the direction of this being a completely sexless marriage. You may have thought of it at first as a short season, a season in which you are frustrated, but felt like the end of this hard season was near, and that in just a few weeks, or for sure in a month or two, things would get better. But they didn't. And as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and months into years, you feel like you are so much older than you are, and you feel like an old person sitting in a rocking chair, just rocking the days away, waiting to die, or at least waiting for this to change, but feeling powerless to create that change. You feel so empty inside, like someone who sees the sunshine outside and wishes so much to get out and enjoy it, and flourish and jump and thrive, and bask in the sunshine and feel the fresh wind across your face, to travel, to see the beauty of the ocean and the lake, to hear the crispness of the waves hitting the beach and the softness of their receding, and to see the beauty of the sunrise and the sunset, to hear children laughing, and just to feel like life is about living and that you're living it and soaking it up. The loveliness of what we have is people with each other in communities and close, intimate relationships. But instead, you feel emotionally like you're just stuck, watching the world go by, watching the beauty that everyone else gets to participate in, except for you. And so you go about your day. You do your job. You do your obligations. You take care of this and that and the other thing. But deep down inside, none of it can come even remotely close to fulfilling the need, the drive, and the passion, and the ache of your heart. You long to be a human that is beautifully connected to another human being. It pains you that you know that this is such an easy thing, that it would not take much. It would not take much at all, really, to make huge strides. And you feel like just screaming inside, knowing that the dreams that you have and their fulfillment are just inches away, but entirely unreachable. And you try in vain to fix it, and you don't know why it can't be fixed. There's discussions and there's possibilities for why this is happening, but at the end of the day, you know that if they really wanted to be close to you, they would be. And day after day, they choose to not be. You begin to wonder if there's something wrong with you, and why you're so left out. You know, or at least imagine, that so many of your friends are laughing with their partners, making love so many nights, taking showers together, holding hands, maybe going dancing from time to time, just basking in the beauty of being close to someone else, enjoying each other's bodies, enjoying each other's spirits. Not every day can be full of long periods of cuddling, or sitting together, or playing with each other's hair, or doing things where it feels like you're just stopping time and focusing on each other. Not every day can be that intimate or that focused, but there are so many ways in which those sweet little nothings, those little things, the little things that on the surface don't mean that much, but they actually do. They mean so very much. And sometimes the little touches and the little affections that could last 5 seconds or 10 seconds, even without sex. Just those small actions and interactions that let the other person know they're special. I care about you. And if you could have an ideal situation, you would be spending so much more time together. And they would be such a huge part of your interaction with the world together, but just having those sweet nothings would mean so much. And even those don't come. And you know that it is so special, the intimate bond of sex that you looked forward to. This whole time, the beauty of sharing your bed together, of dressing and undressing together, of being playful and affectionate and flirtatious, of fun things like sharing your desires and even your fun fantasies together, sharing the beauty of lingerie and that's what she said jokes, the amazing beauty of sex and the passion and the power of eroticism, and sometimes even the hilarious ways that we make noise together and get sticky together. It's just so very human, so very basic to who we are. It's getting back to the bare bones basics of what it means to be a human, to have a heart that pumps hot red blood in your veins and that longs to connect with someone else. And you long for those touches, the intensity of the touch, and the occasional eroticism of someone undressing and fondling you, and circling you with their fingers in just the right places, and looking eye to eye, knowing that we're not just two bodies sending electrical impulses to each other. We're humans who are conscious, trying desperately to make this life have meaning and purpose and beauty, and that the lifestyle of loving each other and the act of lovemaking brings reality to the forefront. It makes you feel alive. It makes life worth living. And even on the hardest and darkest days, when life just feels like it's passing you by or is so empty, the closeness of knowing that someone desires you and that you desire them, and that you come together with all your frailties and foibles, with all of your quirks. You come together with trust and total abandonment and safety, and just relish each other in the safety of each other's arms and the beauty of your intimacy. You know you're safe in each other's hearts. It just seems so beautiful. And it seems like everything you need, even if the other things in life aren't perfect or fulfilling. But the absence of intimacy and touch, the absence of sex and eroticism, the incredibly painful absence of those things makes everything else seem so much worse, so much more empty. The things that even aren't that big a deal, they just seem so much worse because your heart longs to connect and be touched. Your body longs to be touched. Your skin longs to tingle with the touch of your beloved. But you sit and wait, and time just keeps passing. You see this life as beautiful poetry. The seasons of our lives are like stanzas of a poem, and you are in the season where the poem should ring out loud and clear with messages of tenderness, intimacy, and eroticism. And you long so very much to feel the beauty of connecting with someone else, for two people to truly come together, and to have one person completely inside the other, to join together, to feel each other's pleasure and to feel each other's release, and to know that you are completely wrapped up in the idea of being close to each other and being one. But those days seem to be over, at least for now. That door seems to be shut so tightly, and your heart just breaks. And you wonder what the future holds. You wonder what tomorrow will bring, and you begin to wonder if you've been a fool, if you've maybe picked the wrong person, or maybe somehow you diverged at a watershed moment and now you're on different paths, and you feel hopeless, like someone drifting off into space, and there's nothing you can do about it, but just sit and watch, feel the emptiness and the living death, knowing that what you had and what you craved will very likely not be returning. You begin to look for ways to cope. You love on your kids so much. You attend to things with your family, with your community. You medicate with entertainment and comedy And some of those memories are real and the laughter is very genuine, but there's still an aching that's happening deep down inside, like lava under the volcano, waiting to erupt. And when the eruption occurs, the aching and the pain and the disappointment and the disillusionment and the frustration and the anger and the grief come out and overwhelm, and then slowly settle for a short time, and the buildup just occurs again and again and again. And it hurts so much. And you just can't take it. At least you feel like you can't. You feel like you can't take it for another day or another hour, like you're just going crazy. But somehow you find a way, because you have to find a way, because there's no other choice at the moment. And you realize that there's a part of you that's dying a little bit every single day. Your hope is dying. Your passion is dying. Your expectation of a happy ending is dying. And you fight so hard for that to not be the end of your story. Life is meant to be so beautiful. The beauty of a woman's breasts, the shapeliness of her curves, the beauty of her areolas and her nipples, of her beautiful bottom, the beauty of a man, the way that his body functions. Loving another human being and being loved is so important to the human journey. Knowing that this pinnacle part of your existence, to bond with someone, to show kindness and affection, to send messages that go straight to someone's heart and mind, that give them some sense of meaning, value, and purpose in a common vision together. The desire to have a strong home life, a beautiful place where your emotions and intellect and passions can grow and change and thrive and evolve. And you can become a better and better person and learn more things. You can even change some of who you are, but you can do it together as a team. To no longer need each other to be identical or a copy of each other in order for there to be intimacy. And you can even change some of who you are, but you can do it together as a team. No longer needing each other to be identical to each other or a carbon copy in order for there to be intimacy, but for there to be complete freedom and the opportunity for people to grow in ways that the other person may or may not choose for themselves at this moment, but the freedom to grow and to become the best version of you and how you think and what makes life increasingly beautiful to you. And to give your partner the same freedom, and for it to not be under threat of contempt or derision, that if you change and grow and have different opinions than we used to have together when we first met, I'll somehow stop loving you, that you will become unattractive to me simply because you've learned new things and you're trying to become a better person as a result of it. The ability to grow closer together, even as you were evolving, is so critical. It takes maturity and time and safety. And if either person is inclined to say, if you change at all, if we are not carbon copies of each other as we have been from the beginning, then this relationship is no longer moving forward. Oh, what a sad state to be in, both for the person who refuses to let the other person change, and for the person doing everything they can to grow, to become a better person, and to live their life in a way that is truly and profoundly impactful and more meaningful than ever. To face a partner who can't love you unless you are just like them is so traumatic. But you realize that what you had this whole time was exponentially more fragile than you ever imagined. And all the while, it just doesn't seem like that much of an ask to find someone who would simply do life together with you. Life is so short, and it's so lovely to find someone who would get out of the car with you to go into the store, who would hold your hand as you walk around, who would wait for you, walk beside you, who doesn't walk ahead of you, but walks next to you. Someone who loves to think about you, loves the way you dress, thinks about you as they plan their week, and you both clearly prioritize each other as much as possible. You're just wrapped up in each other in the most beautiful and loving way you can. You think about each other when you read something interesting, and you want to share it with your partner right away and hear their thoughts about it. You joke together, and you love to see the twinkle in their eye. You know You know that you share these moments together, the inside jokes, and it just slowly builds a connection that culminates in lovemaking. And you build your home up in every which way, all day long, sending messages to each other in person or through a text message or other ways that just show the other person you love each other. And it builds to a point where when you're finally together at night, it just feels like the most natural thing in the world to come together and be affectionate and fall asleep in each other's arms. It just doesn't seem like it should be a really big deal to hope for and expect these very basic parts of life. Just two people looking at wherever they've come from and taking the best of it, leaving the worst behind, growing through any pain they've had, choosing healthiness, choosing to leave toxicity behind, choosing to just be the best and most loving version of themselves that they can be, making the most of every possible moment, living with the reality and knowledge that life is short and no one's promised another hour, and that life can change in the moment, and to therefore spend our days and our energy loving each other with all of our hearts. But instead they choose a completely different and painful path. A path that leaves you feeling completely undesired and undesirable. You feel so lost and alone, so desperate to be held and touched. You almost feel numb just thinking about it all. You keep getting rejected, and it hurts so much because you know that touching and closeness are essential to your emotional and mental and physical health. But you've had to lower your expectations just to survive. They have emotionally and physically neglected you, and they've caused so much pain and loneliness and distress. At times you almost wonder if they're enjoying this process of blatantly neglecting you, your emotional and sexual needs. You wonder if they're enjoying your pain. And the more that question crosses your mind, the more bizarre the whole thing gets. They're starving you of affection. First on a daily basis, then weekly, then monthly, and now yearly. You know that you deserve to be happy and accepted and loved, fully loved in every way. You know that this lack of connection can really do damage. A loveless, affectionless marriage. In your mind, you are begging for sex, not because you just want the physical release and pleasure, but because you want the connection. You want to be connected to someone else. And they're okay causing the mental anguish of pushing you away and shutting that door, even in a context where you're not allowed to go outside of that relationship for other relationships, for other connections. You have to stay. And there are reasons that many of us have to stay put for the moment. And therefore you're in a bit of an emotional and sexual prison. You've learned to take care of your own heart, your own emotions, the pain and the grief, and even the sexual release. But you know that the longer you stay miserable in a sexless marriage, that you will feel despised, and you will feel hated, and you might be tempted to hate them back. And you just don't want that for yourself. But this is absolutely a version of complex post-traumatic stress that they're adding to you. You know that you need to do what makes you happy, that your spirit depends on it. Many people have already experienced emotional trauma from how they were raised, emotional trauma from past relationships. And so when you get married, you look at that relationship as a place where you both can hopefully drop as many of your prior hurts and wounds and come as healthy as possible. But at the same time, you do need to be loved. Love heals so many things. This is a form of neglect, emotional and physical neglect. The destructiveness that's occurring in a sexless marriage has many parallels in other forms of abuse. Deprivation of touch, people starving for affection. Studies have shown that babies can die from a lack of physical touch. That's why hospitals promote skin-to-skin contact so much. We all know it's vital to their survival. Humans require physical contact. And when we don't have that, when it's deprived of us on the long-term scale, it affects us on so many levels, and even significant health consequences can occur. We miss physical touch so much. Pleasuring ourselves or emptying ourselves out works, but nothing takes the place of skin on skin. Nothing takes the place of a warm body that is inviting and that you've invited back. When your partner shuts down, when they shut down themselves and when they shut you down, what they're saying is, I know we married as lovers, and now I insist that we move to be only roommates. When you hear those words, or you see as much in the relationship dynamic, you feel like dying inside. It's like they're mocking your desire for intimacy. They're constantly rejecting you, and you do have to ask yourself just how much rejection can you take before you stop trying? How much can you take to have your heart constantly broken? We get so very tired of feeling stuck, feeling like they don't care about our needs and wants. You want to love every moment. You want to savor the moment. We know life's meant to be lighthearted and easygoing, tender, romantic, playful, intimate, passionate, vulnerable. We know that we want to tell our partner, you deserve to be loved and to be happy, but I also deserve to be loved and to be happy. We all crave it, and nobody should have to beg for it. You are a sexual being, and they're trying to get you to live and think and act and feel like you are not. You've longed to know and believe and experience that there are good people in this world who work hard in relationships to outgive each other, to outlove each other, to outbless each other, to lighten each other's burdens, to help meet each other's needs. You've longed to experience a relationship where both people appreciate each other, who will fight for and cherish each other, not give each other the silent treatment, verbally or physically. It's like they're playing a mental game with you. And sometimes they even do appear super grumpy and super mean, nasty and depressing, and depressive and dark and moody, and the whole 9 yards. And sometimes they'll be that way to you for days and weeks on end. But then after they have beaten you up emotionally, then they will suddenly act like everything is normal, like they've been the nice, normal person all along. And they act so proud of themselves for being and acting so healthily when they've torn you down for weeks and months. But they step up to the plate for a moment and act like everything is normal. Act like you're the one who is upset. Act like you're the problem. But all this while, you know the truth. They could have laughed with you. They could have spoken kindly with you. They could have touched you. They could have held you. They could have invited you. And they never did, for months on end. And when they suddenly show up to the table and act like they're the loving person, you realize it's just another mind game. It's just another version of their intense and overwhelming immaturity. When this happens, there's no way to feel safe anymore. Your vulnerability that you try to bring to the table is ignored or met with sarcasm. You're not safe to share your thoughts, your needs, your wants, your dreams, your aching. You can't share what breaks your heart or what brings a smile to your face. You can't joke anymore. You can't vocalize your emotions anymore. They have set up a dynamic where they are effectively demanding that you tolerate disrespect and coldness. And the disrespect becomes overwhelming and nonstop. understand that they are trying to control and manipulate you. They want you to take the normal and healthy and good sexual drive and attraction in life and ignore it. And they want you to feel selfish for pursuing this most basic of human needs and drives. But they lose credibility more and more each day. They are less trustworthy, less considerate, and less caring as the days and weeks go by. They refuse to have the hard conversations. And when they do, they just throw things in your face and act like this whole thing has been your fault. They just won't stop playing with your heart, and they purposefully choose to make choices to hurt you and to add overwhelming stress to your life. You don't just want physical touch or sexual release. Yes, you do want those things. You want them on a regular basis, but you want someone to share your dreams with, someone to talk to that knows and cares so much about how you're doing, where your emotions are tonight, who is healthy and mutually giving enough to sense when you need sexual intimacy and is ready to meet you right where you are, with no negativity. Someone who longs to see you happy and who opens their heart and body and invites you to make them happy too. You want to connect so deeply. You want someone to hold your hand through life, literally and metaphorically. Someone to be your dearest friend, your true companion, and your romantic partner. But they have turned sex into a transaction instead of a deep companionship and partnership and an intimate expression of intimacy and pleasure. Sexual intimacy is supposed to be so very healthy and healing, bringing joy and delight, helping you feel balanced and fulfilled and beautifully exhausted, relieving stress, releasing hormones that help you feel secure and loved. You don't need to apologize for one moment for those wants and needs and dreams and hopes. And some of us have been trying so hard to even rid ourselves of sexual shame, trying to rejoice and delight in our sexuality and our desires. And they're trying to heap the shame back on us. They've turned sex into a transaction, and now they've declined the transaction. Sex is meant to be deeply satisfying for each other. You want to give each other orgasms that give each other a sense of delight and beauty, peace and release, trusting each other with your bodies, relaxing and surrendering to each other completely, feeling safe enough to share and connect, empowering each other, encouraging each other to be as connected and fun and energized and aroused and sensual and sexual and erotic as you can be. You want to have a relationship where you're boosting each other's egos and appreciating each other's bodies, not pushing each other away and knocking each other down. Sexuality should be and can be so healing. It's not meant to be a part of life where even more trauma and rejection occurs over and over. It can be so very magical. It's not meant to be treated like something mundane, like a chore to be taken care of, like a duty to knock off of the to-do list. It's meant to be something we partake in together with awe, enraptured by the beauty of each other, of our own bodies and pleasure, and of the experiences we create together. You want to desire and be desired. You want a lover, not a roommate. They've reduced you to a roommate, to a paycheck, to a butler, to a housekeeper. They have taken the most precious parts of life and passive-aggressively demanded that you accept that those beautiful parts of life are no longer available to you permanently. And while you want so much to just feel alive and inspired, they insist that you accept deadness and emptiness. You want to feast on the richness of life, but they insist that the best feast you ever get to enjoy is to beg for scraps, and often to barely ever get that. And they want you to keep begging so that they can keep saying no. They want to hold power over you, over your body, over your mind, over your sexuality. The narcissism knows no bounds. You sought a delightful, ongoing romance that was like a burning fire and a blazing light, and they wholeheartedly agreed at first. But now they've turned out the lights. They've left you alone and cold in the dark. You sought to create a home, and they turned it into a living mortuary. They have left you in a spot where you are legally married, but emotionally you are longing to get married. You're emotionally looking to be in a married position where you can have someone that cares about you, that is tender and sweet and loving and good. And so you are in this emotional crazy land where you can't ever fix your situation. It's like someone saying to you when you were single that you are never under any circumstances allowed to marry. And you would just be drowning with desire to pursue someone and enjoy the beauty of intimacy. And it would eat you alive to not be able to pursue that, to experience it. You can try to be as happy as you can on your own. But you know that you would thrive most in a relationship where you get to care for someone and where someone cares for you. And that the most lovely parts of life get to be part of your everyday experience. And if someone told you that you were absolutely forbidden from ever pursuing marriage, if someone told you that there is no way that will ever be a part of your life and never allowed under any circumstances, you would be really horrified to know that you would be going to the end of your life with no romance and no intimacy, never enjoying what has been the most beautiful part of the human experience. And you would cry out in your spirit, so profoundly and passionately, you would cry, please, let this situation change. Please let me get married. Let me find my best friend. Let it be an option someday. But if someone shut the door and said, you will never ever get married, ever, under any circumstances, end of story, end of discussion, that would be a true nightmare for so many people. And yet, in a very real sense, that is exactly what has happened to you in the situation you're in. It's basically, effectively, a sentence of torture. Emotional, psychological, romantic, sexual torture. You are in a spot where you cannot act married, and you cannot pursue a marriage. You must simply live as an unmarried person permanently. It is an endless nightmare. Nobody wants to be with someone who doesn't want them back. Nobody wants their loyalty and commitment and efforts thrown back in their face or put in the trash. You wanted intimacy. They gave it willingly, and then they pulled it back horrifically, showing that they had grossly deceived you. And now that they insist that you call this normal and acceptable and reasonable, you are forced to live a true nightmare as they shatter your heart daily. They are trying to remove your humanity. They are choking it out, and little by little, you wither up. They want to make sure that you cannot thrive. They want you in survival mode only. As strange as it is, they are burning bridges right in front of you, and gladly. They are setting up a future where even if they were to allow sexuality back into your relationship someday, they will still show no remorse for the damage they've done. No appreciation for the connection you have longed for and tried so hard to create and build and sustain. They will be setting up sexuality in the future to be something that they are merely accommodating for your sake, as something they're obligated to do, as a necessity to make the relationship work, instead of a beautiful and magical gift you give to each other. And going forward, you will always know and understand that they meant so much more to you than you did to them. You will know that they punished you for nothing and shamed you for something that you should have been proud of. Their body language, tone, and expressions have been negative and sarcastic to you for so long. They have emotionally and psychologically attacked you and been very rough with your heart and your well-being. They have eroded all trust. We all know that trust has to be at the center. It is a privilege for them to have had access to your heart and your body. And for them to now throw you away like a rag doll is completely inexcusable. It sends waves of pain through every fiber of your being. These repeated shock waves beating your heart senselessly. The painful punishment that your heart has taken has been endless. And whether they are truly narcissistic or just refusing to deal with a prior trauma, or dealing with you, how their parents or caregivers may have been unavailable to them, the end result is the same. They are wasting your life and making you pay for their choice to deceive you and probably even to deceive themselves, and their refusal to choose a healthy mindset and lifestyle and relationship. You did nothing to deserve this coldness, this rejection, but you end up feeling bizarrely guilty, as if you did something to deserve this behavior. You wonder in vain what you're guilty for. But the answer never comes, because you didn't deserve this. This is part of their control game. You continue to see validation, and they only continue to invalidate you. They want you second-guessing yourself so that they can continue to leave you wondering whether or not you deserve this poor treatment. You felt so very anxious and depressed over this whole situation. Some of your worst fears have come true. What should be good memories are now traumas. You can't sleep well. You feel empty inside all the time. And you feel addicted to this driving need for connection. But you know you'll never get fulfillment. You have panic attacks, wondering if this is as good as your story will ever get. Every day you feel like you can trust people less and less. And you get tempted to become cynical and sarcastic about life and love. And you just feel so very homesick, aching and longing for the very basics of life and love and home. And you lose your heart a little bit more each hour, each day. Please do not beat yourself up for wanting love and affection and for wanting them to be reciprocated. You give so much, and all you need is a little bit of effort back. But they are unloving and cruel, and they will continue to show zero effort. You wait day after day for your desires and efforts to be appreciated, but every day you wait in vain. Every day you wait to be touched, to be invited, for someone to say, "Come here. I love you. I see you. I need you. I love being close to you. It is so nice to hold you tight." It never comes. And it hurts so very much.